My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence, that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. All right, this is just an example of the entity that is stalking while I'm east of the Ontario Village Shopping Center, the Stater Brothers parking lot. And over that venue, the entity is rising up in elevation. So that would require that this plane that is stalking the airport, this is an indicator of the airport that's stalking, while I'm at B Street and Laurel, 127 B Street, and they're rising up over that housing community over that shopping plaza as though they are taking off somewhere. This is nothing other than houses, okay? And they're doing that west of this location where I'm walking toward that venue. They're stalking me through the neighborhood. This is the entity that is mentally ill. Okay, they're doing that while they're stalking with the people of the state. You are absolutely subject to the pattern of conduct where the people of the state are in that neighborhood where you're being gang stalked by the government that's tracking your steps. When you're walking through the streets in the neighborhood and the government knows where you are, indicated by the airport that is stalking, that has no terminals, where they are not taking off, where they are hovering perpetually through the neighborhood and doing so in the documented manner, like you're taking off, or at least that's what you want to look like when you actually look like a psychopath that's going to be committed. That's exactly how this evidence is going to be used against terrorists like Alan D. WAPNER, Julia Gu, Jim Bowman, the entity that's engaged in what is calling itself a board, an airport president authority, a CEO, Otif El-Kadi. They're corrupt. And the demons that are flying in the commercial planes are corrupt with them. They're doing so in the engineered environment. Here's my shadow that's at a distance, in the dark, looking at light over here. I'm looking at light over here. There is nothing that's going to cause my shadow to be projected behind me as well, to the side and in front of me. That is a gang stalking airport. And by the way, Jay Monte going to prison. Showing you the fake sun that's at this same location at 9:44, 9:45 in the morning, and at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and also at nightfall when you're seeing the same specific environment identified through the government stalking and through that impossible environment that defies nature. He's going to prison. He was gang stalking me right here with the Ontario Police Department using a police vehicle. That's a threat, and using helicopter while the fake sun was right here. The purpose of the fake sun is to track my steps, monitoring and engineer light, which is what is occurring at nightfall. Okay, this is P.O.C. 1, 2, 3, 4. The airport are a bunch of demons that are still monitoring me and still stalking, and that's also relevant to the prosecution of terrorists of the Ontario International Airport that is being shut down. And this is the evidence to accomplish that. It is a matter of national security. It's currently 6:08 a.m. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, you see the entity that is stalking now on what is Holt Boulevard. Not flying through the neighborhood anymore, flying over Holt. And this is GPC that was stalking at the Bank of America. This is GPC graffiti protective coatings. Demons that think that they can gang stalk with the government, pull out a spray bottle. A spray paint bottle to engage in the pattern of conduct. The government is stalking. They're hovering over, and I just want to be clear, though, on the opposite side, you're paying attention to what I already documented. What are they doing over the Stater Brothers parking lot? When I'm in that parking lot, you already know. That's the prosecution of GPC. Those thugs like to engage in gang stalking with Paul Leon, maintaining contracts with third-party businesses like the gang stalking airlines, to engage in surveillance and furtherance of murder. It doesn't matter what you pull out. It doesn't matter if you have on a hard hat. It doesn't matter if you're digging in the concrete. It doesn't matter if you're taking a body out of a building. This is the entity that's engaged in that same pattern of conduct. You're going to be prosecuted for conspiring murder, and you're also going to be prosecuted as the mentally ill psychopath that you are, thinking that you're engaging in some activity that's going to supersede a criminal enterprise regarding criminal monitoring, because that's what the government operates as. They do that in police vehicles and in ambulances, as though what they're doing is going to supersede the pattern of conduct, even before your eyes. These are demons who are delusional. This is license plate, stalking at the traffic stops. License 7XCE049, surveillance, right here. And graffiti, protective coatings, engaging in that together. That's the Ontario International Airport, psychopaths. And guess what they are? They're psychopaths. Union Pacific is sharing in the amplified audible activity in the engineered light, while these demons, they are pacing. This is mental illness by those that are in the ongoing gamble to murder somebody. They know who you are. They know what's going on with your genitalia. They're stalking you everywhere that you're going 24 hours a day. And there is no warrant or probable cause or legitimate interest by the government to do that. And this is the gutting out of the city of Ontario. There will be no police department, no fire department, no gang stalking EMTs. There will be no mayor. Since you're not a mayor, you're being removed from position. That's speaking to the shutdown of the Ontario International Airport, and that is justice, the beginning of it. License 48MD784. This is how an entity is keeping you under surveillance 24 hours a day. Okay? This is P.O.C. This is not traffic. This is surveillance. And it's entirely demonic. Okay, you see this demon? He's tracking with the state. Multiple shadows as he drives by. That's a demon-possessed person, and that's a demon-possessed person. And that's a prosecution of Emporia Place. I have them documented already. I documented this neighborhood. I captured their license plates. They're engaged in the pattern of conduct. And so is everybody inside of the Stater Brothers inside of the Ontario Village Shopping Center in this neighborhood while I went through and documented their license plates. While I'm walking through the neighborhoods, and this is what the entity is doing, flying over their homes, which are facilitating venues. The entity is engaged in this while I'm documenting right now. I will prosecute you, including this terrorist at Safeco Auto LLC. It's already on the record. This is Vine and HOLT, P.O.C. Okay, just want to show you the entity that's engaging in that pattern of conduct, and this is what I've been documenting, what I've been showing you, the entity that's engaging in surveillance. They're stalking me before I arrive at the venue. They're stalking in the path with light. They're doing so as mentally ill. They're mentally ill while they are stalking with light. This is the entity that does that. And so context is that everybody that I'm documenting, for example, in the Stater Brothers is stalking, while the government is stalking from place to place. You're going to take a look at everything that I captured, not just the video documentation. The Google Drive is showing the street-by-street, turn-by-turn conduct of stalking by the Ontario International Airport that we're maintaining plane activity, which is, that would be through the housing neighborhood, which was Laurel and B Street. Okay, so as I go toward what is Holt Boulevard, which is west, this is where the entity is stalking, going in the direction west. Remember, when they're engaging what is hovering here as though they're landing behind this subway. Remember when they're doing the same thing across the street when I'm across the street over there, and they're hovering over this business while the fake sun is hovering over me. Remember, while the fake sun is here from 6:30 a.m. until after 5 p.m. That's the government that is being prosecuted, and they know it. So while the government is caught, the murderer, the kidnapper is caught, they engage in more of that. That's the mentally ill. That's the psychopathic, maniacal. I don't care that I'm caught. I don't care that I'm humiliated. I don't care that I've been exposed in front of everyone. In fact, that's why I'm going to do it more. That's what makes Satan satiating its sick obsession with regard to looking as though they are, this is an ego issue. These are murderers and kidnappers. That same ego, okay, that has never been humiliated for the proof of gang stalking, is engaging in this conduct in front of the world, okay? It's going to cost many people a lot of money, and it's also going to cost them time in prison. And the context is that everybody in the Stater Brothers, I just want to be clear, they are equally psychopathic. It's the same pattern of conduct. They have the same mental illness, okay? And this is that ability to make that categorical assessment because of the pattern of conduct that's underway. And it's also exposing everybody that's at work, everybody that enters into the store, sharing in surveillance, stalking me just like the airport is, including while I'm capturing video after video, something that ordinarily somebody like Paul Leon, the government, does not want to be known. So you are assessing, diagnosing the behavior with regard to what is known, what they're engaging in, and it is not the ordinary lawful operations of the airport. That's the airport that's proven to be stalking, and the airport continued stalking. This is what the record shows. And the airport are the people of the state. Stater Brothers is the third party, monitoring my vagina in the bathroom, stalking through the aisles in the store, using the operations of that venue to engage in what is monitoring me in furtherance of murder, and having the audacity to make money off of it. And I'm going to drain. I'm going to suffocate. Okay, this is P.O.C. It is currently 6:24 a.m. I'm going to suffocate that business. This is ongoing psychopathic pacing. Just imagine the fake sun. They're in the engineered light. These are stalkers. And the stalkers are not hidden anymore. These are stalkers. The airport just followed me to Holt Boulevard, and then the airport followed me across the into the parking lot of the village. And the entities engaging in this pattern of conduct in Ontario. Remember what they're doing in Upland, sharing the supernatural pattern of conduct? That's a prosecution of the U.S. government. Okay? P.O.C. It is currently 6:25 a.m. at the Ontario Village Shopping Center. Okay, these sex offenders that come in, touching you with engineered light while they're monitoring you, they are sex offenders. They have the mindset of a predator. Not only are they stalking you, not only is there no basis under law for the government to do it through them, but they're engaging what is focusing on making sure that they touch your person with this engineered light. And they will be prosecuted as violent sex offenders. That is the mindset of a sex offender while they are engaging in that. And that's exactly what you're going to prosecute, okay? While Satan is engaging in this conduct, which is also psychologically harmful. And that's an unprecedented basis of recovery from corrupt companies that cannot afford to compensate me like Stater Brothers, but they will. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, this is again the fourth one since I'm uploading right now. And again, the entity goes psychotic. You're already psychotic stalking as an airport, stalking in planes. As I publish the evidence online, as the entity is, for example, witnessing me laughing while I'm speaking of all of the consequences, more and more planes. This is psychopathic pacing, okay? And it's shared by the people of the state. They're demons as well. They're very mentally ill, and they are obsessed, and they are always acting to their own demise. This is an entity, again, that is sacrificing its own family. They're going to be impoverished. They're going to be homeless. They're going to be put in prison. They're going to be committed. They're going to lose their positions. And they're engaging that while they are all focused on me. I just want to document that's the fourth plane. It's 6:36 a.m. The entity is maintaining plane activity here. Everybody inside of Starbucks, many of whom, yes, Starbucks, but I mean Stater Brothers, they are indeed stalking. Here goes the fifth one. You need to understand that this is, I just walked through the neighborhood. They're stalking over Vine, hovering. They crossed the street over here. This is, you're understanding the bigger picture. Remember at 815 Holt Boulevard at the Superior Grocer on the opposite side, they're hovering, even continuing hovering to stalk in that parking lot. Don't forget about that evidence. This is the entity that is indeed stalking, and they're doing it in front of the world. And the mentally ill, psychopathic disorder, this is antisocial and psychopathic, is the cause for what is a threat to national security because it's a population of them. And they lose control. They do not cease to engage in it as they're caught. You're looking at the evidence, a pattern of losing control. This is also what is murder. This is equally evidence of losing control. They're doing it knowingly on camera, knowing exactly where I'm at with that government. This population is going to be prosecuted for the conspiracy to murder. And I went through the neighborhoods and I documented their addresses and I put it on the internet, and I will be prosecuting them. P.O.C. License 8005003. Going into the grocery store, stalking like psychopaths. Hunting me down. They're going to pay for that. Okay? Not just with monetary resources, but they're going to prison. They're going to be locked down and confined. 6TUL 769. This is the same entity that's pacing. They're coming on the ground and do it. This is what the entity was doing. Plane after plane after plane after plane. They share in that mental illness. It is currently 6:37 a.m. This is that teamwork. That team is imploding. P.O.C. Seconds later, 6:38 a.m. Here's another one. This will be the sixth. This is U.S., a murderer. They engaged in murder in Kentucky. This is what they were doing. They were targeting. That was not an engine malfunction. This is what an entity is doing, falsely exposing, reporting to you in order to create the spirit of fear while they are indeed targeting American citizens, keeping them under surveillance, practicing witchcraft. All right, and this is what UPS is doing. UPS and the demon operating this plane doesn't have the spiritual authority or power or consent. What they are going to do is hand over all of the money with which they're using criminally, expending upon terrorism, terrorizing the person that's here to prosecute them. That's what UPS is accomplishing. Sharing how they are a threat to national security. This is the sixth plane. It's 6:39 a.m. Psychopathic pacing. These are the mentally ill. They're the demon possessed. This is the Nephilim. P.O.C. Stalking in the grocery store, shadow all around, in front, behind, to the side. They're stalking with the government. And these are the ones that commit murder. And the gang stalking police are not investigating it. They're a part of that ongoing sacrifice. This is a society of the demon-possessed who are being prosecuted, and you see them lose control. This is the entity calmly, silently losing control, while the entity loses control, having 6 planes, one after another after another. They are maniacal psychopaths. Okay, P.O.C. 6:41 a.m. All right, this is a parking lot full of defendants, monitoring with the entity that just exposed all of them, because this is how gang stalking operates. And this is indeed stalking as a criminally cooperative system. They are all gang stalking together. They are all monitoring me together. They're also all studying devices, pacing all around while the entity has this fest of planes and all this foot traffic underneath here, while they have the equally impossible light activity of shadows all around their person, and the fake sun hasn't risen yet, but this is exactly where it's going to rise. Remember where it rose yesterday in Upland, California at the Upland Public Library. License 7UDR15. Co-conspirator of murder. Heartache. sexual assault and battery, and routinely engaging in that as well. This is called blocking. They're stalking. This is a threat too. License 91580D4. Knows where I'm at. Those are not accidents. That's the gang stalking conduct. They're going to be prosecuted as the predators that they are. There's the government. And the people of the state are the government as well. It's vicariously committed. The people of the state are not private citizens sharing in the public entity's pattern of conduct. Moreover, this is called malice. She's doing the same thing, blocking the path. And by blocking, making sure that they are in your path to create activity. You don't have to obstruct my ability to pass. You are making sure you get in the path to create activity, which is a federal offense in furtherance of murdering me. You don't have any warrant or probable cause to block my path. Tracking my steps. Demons. Stalking. P.O.C. Stalking with noise. It's monitoring. This is an employee who's inside gang stalking systematically as well. That's the basis of the federal prison. All right, this is Stater Brothers at 646 West Holt Boulevard. Everything underway inside of this venue is monitoring me, which the government is proving before I even enter the venue. And the government includes the people of the state. These are demons. So the precision with regard to activity creation is not based on intelligence. I'm showing you how unintelligent that they are. But it's because they're not human beings. These are spirits, monitoring spirits. And that is a means of domestic terrorism, which has never before been contemplated under federal law. But it is no less proven with regard to this tangible evidence, which is the P.O.C. This is the Ontario Village Shopping Center, specifically 646 West Holt Boulevard. The entity that has the fake sun rising over me at Upland, California at the Upland Public Library is documented keeping the fake sun so perfectly aimed through the covered structure in order to coat this wall with engineer light so that I can be subject to sexual assault and battery while they're engaged in vagina monitoring on the inside of this venue. Okay? This is the entity that's engaged in, don't forget his name, David Quinones. Okay? And employees like Ricky and those systematically monitoring, engaging in that in furtherance of murder with complete disregard for your rights as an American citizen. This is the fabric of what is the federal RICO case. Every business in California is engaging in this. They're businesses that are sharing and sacrificing American citizens. Their primary purpose is surveillance. They happen to serve products and provide services while they do so. P.O.C. It is currently 6:53 a.m. Say it again, genius.
Recording so I could call the cops?
And tell them what?
I just want to know what.
Tell them what?
What you're.
No, you vocalize the threat. Tell them what?
Wait, how was that?
Tell them what?
How was that?
Tell them what, genius?
How was that?
Tell them what? She's going to prison. She's following up the street, and she's inebriated, smells like marijuana while she's driving. This is impossible light, and she's engaged in surveillance just like 9LGJ845, and you're going to call the police for what? While, moreover, you're gang stalking 9DCD155. That's a psychopath that's engaged in murdering, and she's a homosexual predator obsessed with my vagina, and is mad because I'm providing the evidence of it. That's why the Ontario police are being disbanded. And this is all impossible light. 9LGJ845 is threatening me as well. They're stalking together. The fake son's following me up the street. You ain't got to say nothing, but this is surveillance. This is the entity that's engaged in this. Outside of this is the same fake son that's over me at this Vesta and Bonita. At 10 o'clock in the morning, the video of the Ontario Fire Department gang stalking impossible light moving across this house. I'm walking by this house and the entity has engineered light across it, and I walk through it and my shadow is magnified on the side of it. This is the fake son over me at what is 7:34 a.m. during daylight savings time. During standard time, that is 6:34 a.m. They're engaging in surveillance and threatening to engage in stalking calling the psychopaths on whose behalf they're engaging in surveillance in this environment. They're going to be committed and they're going to federal prison. These are a bunch of homosexual predators, but the males are gang stalking as well. The reason why I'm referring to them is because these are not human beings. These are spirits. These are demons. Okay, they are cloaking themselves. The demon possessed are walking around wanting to appear as normal human beings like you and I, and they're not. They're obsessed with our genitalia. They're obsessed with everything about us, and they are stalking as a population. And they have the audacity to engage in criminal activity. You're threatening the wrong person. She's going to prison. I want to be clear. This is just like the one at 218 C Street. You're vocalizing a threat. You're going to call the police who are stalking with you, via you, and tell them what? So that people like Craig Hazelwood commit kidnapping. They're going to prison. License plate 8WAT062. They're going to federal prison. Okay, and that's why she can't tell me. What are you going to call and tell the police what? And why are you a psychopath acting as though you're reporting something to them when they are monitoring through you? They're the same demonic spirit. That malice is how they commit murder and kidnappings. P.O.C. 9UPR 317, psychopathic pacing, stalking together, obsessed, being documented, being prosecuted, still doing that. That's what's communicating a threat. This is what's stalking in planes. They're driving through impossible light activity. At the venue where I'm documenting the fake sun well into the afternoon and the sunset. And I want to be clear, all of the entity, everybody collecting government assistance, you can't pay your rent, you're collecting welfare, you have your kids on the system, you're here as an immigrant, be prepared, all manner of the federal government is going to prosecute you and you will be relieved. You will not be receiving any mode of assistance from the government, and that's if you don't go to federal prison, first of all. Those third parties are going to prison. This is P.O.C. 9LGJ845, and it is currently 7:36 a.m. You are going to prison while you're stalking with the state and furtherance of murder and vocalizing a threat. You're a whole psychopath stalking, and you will be documented. Stalking is a crime. You're going to be documented. POC. This is Vesta and Bonita. Ontario Fire are stalking here. The same ones that engage in criminal summoning. Maniacal psychopaths. Where the fake sun is over me at this same house, at this same intersection, 10 o'clock in the morning, and that same entity that is stalking me with the airport, stalking me, engaging in ambush conduct like I just documented the other day on Holt Boulevard, with the cursed womb. Okay, these are all cursed wombs stalking me, and they're engaging in that while I've shown you the same crime scene before. And that's speaking to the entity that is speaking. The government is not going to threaten you like that. That's what the government's doing, but that's why the government's being handled. And Paul Leon is not remaining in office. This is the City of Ontario system, and he's fully engaged in that conspiracy to murder, and because of that, he's being federally prosecuted while he is speaking, threatening me, while those psychopaths, those vagina monitors, are using helicopters to follow me around. They don't have any authority under the law. POC. Alrighty, you're looking at the pattern of following me, engaging in psychopathic pacing. This is the Ontario International Airport. Stalking with ARCO. Stalking with Chevron. Stalking with Starbucks. Stalking with the people of the state at the facilitated venues where they reside. The fake sun is over me, remaining in Ontario, California today. Alright, and doing so at what is 8:36 a.m. Where I got their license plates already. They're engaging in surveillance. While Southwest Airlines flies over this way, one plane after another, I'm documenting that. While the people of the state are making purchases, while they're stalking as an entity, they're doing so while they are in that specific environment. This is where the fake sun is still present. Remember when I walked from Upland days ago and the fake sun is right here? I took a picture of it after 6 p.m. This is the entity that is stalking as the airport. This is documenting. South Saris Regis Group will be federally prosecuted while the government is flying over that facilitating venue, while the fake sun is over me and you are in relevant position as an apartment complex where the people of the state are engaging in surveillance via you, and you're making money as well. The employees and the gang stalking residents and the people of the state are monitoring. This is how the entity is going to be prosecuted. This is POC, and the entity is following. As I go through the neighborhood, go to Stater Brothers, come back, this is the entity that's maintaining that, and their demons under a fake sun, as I'm showing you the city of Upland versus the city of Ontario, which is a prosecution of the state of California engaging in the U.S. government's pattern of conduct. POC, it's 8:37 a.m. Alrighty, this is the disbanding, like I stated, of the Ontario Police Department that are stalking as well with the people of the state. They cannot do it without them. 9 VIT 64A. Just to be clear, the entity is doing the sun. This is the concerted act. This is where the fake sun is, as I documented yesterday evening walking from Upland, California. That is a police department that is stalking, and stalking using helicopters. They also are stalking while they're on the roads and the highways in police vehicles. And as I'm showing you, the ARCO employees that are gang stalking at 6 in the evening under the fake sun, and as I'm documenting now during the 8 a.m. hour, businesses such as ARCO that are conspiring the murder of American citizens and making money while they're engaging in surveillance with the cities like Ontario, California, they will be federally prosecuted. This is their federal prosecution. This is that federal RICO case, which is encapsulating domestic terrorism in the United States. This is POC. The Ontario Police Department are moreover engaging in terrorism, stalking in a conspicuous manner using helicopters as they monitor the evidence that I just published on the internet, which is their intent to engage in psychological torture. One whose tactics, those tactics don't work against me. In fact, they're going to prison for that, and they're also going to be subject to what are mental examinations. This is the POC. However, I am documenting that pattern. This is what an entity is doing while they're hostile to what I published on 2022. That same department stalking me at the library, stalking me while they are using helicopters properties because they're hostile demons who are stalkers and proven as such, they're going to prison. And this is how you know what's happening to Tracy Banks. She's going to prison. This is how you know what's happening to Eric Spencer. He's going to prison. This is how you know what's happening to Jason Fields. They're going to prison. This entity that's highly unintelligent doesn't have any self-control. In fact, engages in more criminal conduct, the circus light activity, and the stalking and the absurdly psychotic methods while those demons are being discerned, i.e. documented. That's the P.O.C. It is currently 8:47 a.m. P.O.C. This old demon is gang stalking right here. This is the fake sun over me. And those are the demons of the Ontario police who engage in criminal summoning with the people of the state. Mike LORENZ is going to prison, okay? These vagina monitors that are stalking, she's sitting in Engineer Light petting the dog. She's a demon and she's engaged in criminal activity in furtherance of murder with a gang stalking agency. She's doing so while she's actually stalking somebody else, looking in an opposite direction and engaging in activity that's supposed to, on its surface, appear as though it has nothing to do with the actual target. This is psychotic behavior. This is a demon. This is P.O.C. Mike LORENZ is being federally prosecuted. The agency is being disbanded. Remember when C. Gerber is in the vehicle, what is 10:17 a.m. on video? The fake sun's in the same position. The center. This is indeed a demon who was stalking, and the criminal activity of C. Gerber in concert with the people of the state, he's going to prison as well. This is relevant to the entity that is inside of the OVITT Family Community Library, gang stalking, making malicious assertions about the people of the state who lie in my vagina and then make up information while they're listening to themselves being prosecuted, looking to the left and the right like nothing is happening. While they're engaged in this conduct, they will be committed and be subject to prison. This is terrorism, while a bunch of psychopaths who are in fact demon-possessed are stalking. This is an entity that is stalking again. You saw them stalking at ARCO. This is the OVITT Family Community Library where C. Gerber's under this fake sun at 10:17 a.m. This is the entity that as a gang stalking police department, that's not law enforcement. It's criminal surveillance. Those are vagina, and that's a vagina monitor. Okay? This is P.O.C. These are demons that are begging me for attention, and the attention that they're getting, federal prosecution of Paul Leon, the federal prosecution of Mike LORENZ, the federal prosecution of Sean Thrasher, the federal prosecution of kidnappers like Craig Hazelwood, the federal prosecution of demons who are stalking like Jay Montez, the entity that's gang stalking like you see in Upland, California. This is the P.O.C. This is the entity that is demon possessed and they're pathetic. It's a population of demons keeping my vagina under surveillance, which is going to put the city of Ontario on the map for horrible reasons. This is the second documented act of terrorism stalking as a police department. This police department is being disbanded. They are in fact mentally ill, and this is the evidence which is going to be relevant to having them committed, and they are going to prison. And you're also listening to what it is that I'm publishing in 2022, where this entity committed kidnapping in July of 2022, lied about me being dead somewhere, collecting insurance money, defaming my character so that they can get away with kidnapping me, and so that people like Tracy Banks, who are stalking me at this library with Eric Spencer, stalking me at this library while they are under a fake sun, which is not in Upland, California, by the way. This is the entity that's engaged in that together. So I just want you to take a look at this because this is going in court. These are demons that are stalking. This is the criminal act of gang stalking. The demon possessed are way over 55. That's what Tracy Banks is, way over 55. The demon possessed, the terrorists, the sex offenders that are gang stalking are operating under deceptive misnomers such as police. Mike LORENZ is no police department, and it's also Derek Williams. Derek Williams, they're both going to be federally prosecuted. And those are the terrorists, the gang stalkers of the 280 North Lemon Apartments. The elderly that are engaging in terrorism, okay? And just like they are easily and seamlessly engaging in that pattern of conduct, which is inhumane, the federal government is going to drop them from any means of being supported with what they need to pay their rent, while the no city, no state, and no federal assistance is going to be provided to any domestic terrorists. And the gang stalking by the Ontario Police Department is going to be used to have the entity that's going to be relieved from that. This is P.O.C. This is exposing mental illness and criminal activity simultaneously. And this is putting Sean Thrasher in prison. Okay, the document relevant to what is excluding me on a discriminatory basis while you're engaged in this pattern of conduct. The pattern of conduct, pay attention to how the engineer light is rapidly disappearing. The fake sun is still here. It's already known what they're doing. So you're looking at demons that are indeed engaged in what is real-time witchcraft. But they're mentally ill. They're not magical. They don't have any authority over here. That's why I'm embarrassing them and I'm prosecuting them. And with their witchcraft practices, they're going to be placed in facilities. That's where Mike LORENZ belongs. This is a chief of vagina monitors who have not told and instructed that department to stop stalking me, and that's why he's going to federal prison. This is P.O.C. It is currently 3:29 p.m. at the OVITT Family Community Library. All Alright, this is the gang stalking by the people of the state. Ontario police engaged in psychopathic pacing like I showed you in the previous video. They're engaging in surveillance, pushing their demon-possessed little kids in strollers, monitoring under the fake sun, and that's UPS that committed murder in Kentucky. And this is the fake sun. By the way, in Kentucky, where the entity engages in what is damaging the plane and then flying it into the ground, which is premeditated murder, while they engage in acts of terrorism, give an explanation as to why the plane flew into the building in Kentucky. That plane crash occurred in the sunset. That's what you'll see in Kentucky. This is where the sun is setting at the OVITT Family Community Library, and these are all demons. They're gang stalking at the Ontario City Hall that has the fake sun over me in the morning. They're doing so. I remember I was standing right here at 9 o'clock and I walked right over to the Ontario City Hall. They're engaging these are the demon possessed, and I documented them in a 20-minute video today. You'll see the terrorists on the face of that video, the thumbnail, Paul Leon, who's being federally prosecuted, gang stalking with the community that are doing so with their minor children, doing so with Mike Lorenz, a gang stalking police department, doing so at a state facilitating venue, which is the Ontario City Hall. These are psychopaths engaging in the criminal activity in concert with that government. Civic Center. This is why they're being documented, where they live, what they drive, wherever they're at. These are psychopaths, and these are the demon possessed that don't have a race, by the way. Okay, and they give birth to children who are monitoring as well. This is why the airport that has no terminals over here are flying right over. And they are, while they're muted, not saying anything, nor do they have to, when they are stalking under the phenomenon that C. Gerber is under at 10 o'clock in the morning. They're all vagina monitors. This is the entity gang. Michael Lorenz is being federally prosecuted. They're being prosecuted as terrorists. A community that shares in murder. And then these disgusting creatures have babies together. They're monitoring psychopaths. This is the P.O.C. The Ontario City Hall is a gang stalking venue. And Paul Leon engaging in the pattern of conduct. I want to be clear, these are the terrorists with whom the Ontario Police Department engaged in the very heavily documented tactic of criminal summoning. These are terrorists engaging in the pattern of conduct at the Ontario Civic Center. This is the entity that's engaging in that. This is the P.O.C. under that fake sun at 5:56 p.m. I captured in images showing what is the P.O.C. I already captured video. I don't have to get these vagina monitors and 7-minute video after 7-minute video after 7 minutes. The feds are watching them stalking. The entity, this is, again, like I stated, Jay Montez, M. Ross, Lester Keys, Jason Knighton, Jonathan Burnett, Sequoia Payton. These demons, every single last one that engaged in kidnapping, every single last one that I document stalking, they're going to prison. This is the pattern of conduct that is conducted with the people of the state. This is the same walkway where the airport is stalking, and stalking at the Ontario Village Shopping Center. Stalking while I'm walking through the neighborhood. This is the same city of Ontario where the fake sun hasn't gone anywhere. That's the P.O.C. It is currently 5:57 p.m. They're being prosecuted as terrorists. They are the people of the state. P.O.C. Here you are. And this is the psychopaths who are gang stalking with the Ontario police. This is what Mike Lorenz is being federally prosecuted for. This is a sex offender. This is the vagina monitors. This is the population that I'm documenting, engaging in harassing me at Hawthorne, coming out, engaging in name calling while you are stalking at the same time is going to get them all committed. And there are not too many people to have them committed. That ongoing pattern. And this is what they decide to engage in. They're being prosecuted for psychologically torturing, sexually violating, harassing, stalking, and they're demons that are monitoring. Where are you walking your dog while you're stalking me like a psychopath that has yet to be diagnosed? You're walking your dog under the fake sun, where I am point of that activity that you are creating while you are stalking in the path with that agency that also decided to come and engage in more terrorism. Mike Lorenz is being prosecuted. I have thousands of videos of this agency engaging in that ongoing criminal activity. It's terrorism. It is the basis of what is federal prosecution of the people of the state. And this is a population that is engaging in what is terrorism of an American citizen, as opposed to an individual that is terrorizing a population of people, like what foreign terrorists engage in the United States and in Ontario, California. The agency, Ontario Police, are being disbanded. These are mentally ill demons who are under what is the 6:16 p.m. fake sun. This is the OVITT Family Community Library that are manufacturing facts in concert with the people of the state while they are targeting me because I am documenting what is their engagement in plotting my murder with the Ontario Police Department, with the people of the state who are gang stalking, which is their criminal engagement in that plot that conspiracy to murder, which is why they are targeting. They are targeting as an entity that knows exactly who I am, i.e. the fake son. Doing so while an entity is monitoring my evidence, while they are keeping it under surveillance, and there is no such thing as having a warrant, probable cause, or a legitimate interest under the Constitution to do so, like the are. Okay? And they're engaging what is no coincidence. They're engaging in the pattern of conduct while I am documenting the people of the state. Hold on, I want you to see these terrorists. While I'm documenting the people of the state, look at the engineer light all over the city hall. This is a stalker, and with minor children. Okay, they're losing custody of children. They're being deported out of the U.S. and they're being prosecuted as terrorists who are not going to be receiving any form of government assistance, and they are going to federal prison for criminal activity, just like this, stalking in real time, sharing in the elements of monitoring simultaneously with gang stalkers who are murdering and kidnapping, like Mike LORENZ in the Ontario Police Department. Okay, this is the entity that's showing you their obsession. All you have to do is look at the video evidence of them stalking me at this same location at 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning. That's an agency that's engaged in what is surveillance, and they're being disbanded for it. And so are the people of the state. All right. And so this is breaking ground regarding what is changing the landscape in this country, because of the state themselves are the terrorists. And this is changing the ways in which the laws have been, while a government's engaging in what is surveillance. Okay, and this is speaking as a matter of justice. They are being prosecuted. They don't have a defense in court as well. There's no legal argument. Everybody that I documented along Euclid Avenue, every house number, every license plate, everyone that's in my path in this environment that I'm showing you, which is supernatural, they are indeed being federally prosecuted, including while they engage in ongoing gang stalking, walking their demon-possessed kids around, walking their dogs, gang stalking me under the same walkway, where I'm present at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. That's not the son. This is the mentally ill. This is the Nephilim. And he is monitoring now with minor children. You're engaging in sexual violence with minor children. You're engaging in what are war tactics with minor children. These are the predators. These are the terrorists that are unfit to be in those roles. That's going to be dealt with. And that is the same with the government that is unfit to be engaged in what is maintaining that deceptive misnomer. They're not a police department. And this is Mike LORENZ and the Ontario Police Department that are letting you know that they are enemies of the state. And so are the okay, and this is the implosion of this country, unfortunately. While they're engaging in this criminal activity, impunity, they are engaging in what is stalking in real time, and this is the entity that is engaging in that, and they are doing so with knowledge, okay? This is not a walk in the park. This is criminal activity. I'm going to prosecute for this. This is P.O.C. Satan doesn't have a race. They know exactly what they're doing, and this is the Ontario Police doing it right in front of your face, and that's why they're going to prison. This is the pattern of conduct, okay? It's 6:19 p.m. where this fake son is here. C. Gerber is right here stalking me. Okay, and this is where C. Gerber is giving me a document where this gang stalking venue is engaged in what is making up information with the terrorists themselves. They're going to prison, okay? That entire agency is already dealt with. This is the prosecution of the people of the state who are domestic terrorists. And I will be prosecuting a population, P.O.C. All right, I just want to capture sexual assault and battery. This is serial stalker 8 Henry Robert Jerry 425. Here's the fake moon here at the Stater Brothers. This is big environment that is shared with the people of the state that are monitoring together. This is psychopathic pacing while you aim light. It's engineer light, 6AXJ570. This is what the entity is doing as I captured serious stalking by the airport today at this venue. This is what they're doing on the roads, on the highways, in the parking lot structure, aiming light. This is engineer light that creates multiple shadows. This is the gang conduct, and this is the why you're disbanding the gang stalkers that are the Ontario Police. 9GWP 207, they're going to prison. So 8 Henry Robert Jerry 425, and this is facilitation. You're also going to prison because of the massive facilitation. It's not just here. They're monitoring at the Toms, at the El Pollo Loco, at the El Super, just to give you examples of where I'm at, the housing community. This is massive monitoring within, for example, the radius, all of traffic, Ontario Police right there. They're going to prison. 8 Henry Robert Jerry 425, based on serial stalking, including with the Ontario Police Department and the Ontario International Airport, and all the people of the state are monitoring. And I published video right now, I'm going to publish another video documenting the population as they're gang stalking everywhere that I'm going. The population is being federally prosecuted. This is P.O.C. And that's just what I'm capturing, publishing, maintaining a repository that people can reference. You can look up the sex offenders in California. That's what the P.O.C. is going to be used for. The entire city of Ontario is being prosecuted. It's not limited to the people that come in my presence, stalking me in my face like fools. I'm documenting them. The entire city, I'm prosecuting the population. These are demons that are in sync. And this is the Ontario Police Department that's gang stalking. This is impunity. So you're conspiring the murder of an American citizen in plain view. This is mental illness that needs to be diagnosed, checked, and exposed. And it's shared by those that wear Ontario police uniforms as well. This is criminal cooperation when you're engaging in that. And it's mentally ill behavior. This is P.O.C. It is currently, by the way, 8:45 p.m. I want to document this because they are going to prison. This is P.O.C. This is the fake moon. And I'm capturing images of it when I'm at the, walking through the neighborhood, capturing the people of the state where the fake moon's over me, over their homes. This is the entity that's engaged in this is the fake sun over me here, remember? And this is the fake moon at night. This is a reference to their mental illness. This is a whole fake environment, and all they're doing is stalking. And they share in the same way monitoring vagina. Gang members ganging up on what is your genitalia, keeping it under surveillance. Sex offenders. License plate 7RMM341, 9SWC897, 8HRJ425, 9DQU076. This is gang violence, and they're all co-conspirators of murder. I'm going to prosecute. It's also a federal RICO case because I'm going to prosecute every single last business. This is P.O.C. All right, the people of the state engaging in what is a sexually motivated means of harassment and psychological torture while they're criminally monitoring in furtherance. That is, it precedes what is murder that this entity is currently engaging in the criminal conspiracy of, and they're doing it on behalf of the thugs of the Ontario Police Department that are being disbanded based on this body of evidence. They themselves are also being federally prosecuted in concert with the rest of the state of California that is gang stalking me, as the P.O.C. establishes. At approximately 8:49 p.m., while I am disrobed, I'm indisposed. In other words, I'm describing the sexual violence because this is what the sex offenders are engaging in, and this is what I'm going to prosecute and recover for. So David Quinones, terrorist leader at Stater Brothers, 646 West Holt Boulevard, enveloped within the Ontario Village Shopping Center in Ontario, California, in concert with the city of Ontario, is engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring under the fake moon in the engineered light, which is already established inside of the grocery store, inside of the bathroom, while the people of the state that are established as gang stalkers, terrorists, stalking on behalf of the state are in relevant position. You have an employee that's gang stalking, monitoring my vagina in the adjacent restroom. You have the people of the state that are gang stalking, maintaining presence in the aisles. That is their criminal means of what is the federal RICO case, making a purchase, being in line while they cross path regarding any corner of the store, including the bathroom where I'm in, where they are obsessively stalking. That's the reality of the maniacal psychopath that's actually seeking to hunt me down. The demon-possessed that are stalking in this psychotic manner are merely engaging in what is trying to maintain their outward demeanor while they are actually obsessed. They're salivating. They are hunting and stalking obsessively everywhere I go like animals. And so I just want to make sure I detail the ongoing violence because every license plate that you see in the video documentation, including that I publish on the platform that's going to be used for the cinematic prosecution of the U.S. government, the prosecution of the people of the state, every license plate, every address, every city. As I go from Ontario to Upland, California, and you see that pattern of conduct, this entity, every department, every company, they are sharing in the criminal conspiracy together. I'm going to prosecute the entire entity for what is ongoing. And this is the gang members teaming up on monitoring my vagina, engaging in what is sexually violent means of psychological torture and harassment and threats. While my legs are spread apart, while I am indisposed, which all of the entities already engaging in gang violence, sexually motivated, predatory in nature, because that's already known. The entity is engaging in what is activity creation by seeking to break into the bathroom. Now, the entity is aware of when the bathroom door is locked, and they know when the bathroom door is unlocked. So the entity, with knowledge that the door is locked, is engaging in what is activity creation, which is also equally alarming, disconcerting, threatening, and perverted to the targeted individual with regard to the psychological harms, the sexually violent purpose, and criminal act of monitoring, including the sex offender that's monitoring in the bathroom. But the entity is doing that while they are stalking. It's occurring under the fake moon. They're monitoring on devices. The entity is stalking with planes and helicopters. They're monitoring every single thing, and the entity is aware of the fact that the door is locked. This entity is engaging in what is seeking to break into the bathroom. These are the people of the state that you see their images, you see their license plates. This is one entity that is a predator, and they are all going to be federally prosecuted for that same sex offense, and there is no legal defense for the criminal conspiracy with the state, which is what the people of the state are, every single last one. Okay, so it's not a defense, oh, my grandma's here and I went to Arizona and I don't know the targeted individual and I don't know the Ontario Police Department and I never met the targeted individual. I've shown you how the CEASELESS pattern of conduct is underway and how that entity is engaging in what is maliciously targeting as a population. And there are absolutely no exceptions to that. And not only that, the entity is going to be prosecuted. That malice is there. thereby flipped on its head, and you actually don't have any no constitutional legal argument regarding being prosecuted for what is a real existing criminal system that you are sharing in, regardless of whether you admit to knowledge of it. It doesn't matter. You don't have to know that you're creating light activity. You don't have to know that you're stalking in the path. You don't have to know that or admit whether you know the target individual or not when you are engaging in activity, and it will be akin to what is a strict liability basis for prosecuting the government that is systematically stalking you through a population that is actually aware of what they're doing, but you're prosecuting based on that malice. And there is no legal argument. So the conspiracy is established, and it is supernatural with regard to that evidence. There is no possible way that you are engaging in the accidental pattern of conduct, the unintentional pattern of conduct. And so when you are in the engineered light, like inside of Stater Brothers, and you are engaging in what is breaking into the bathroom, you just committed an offense on behalf of thousands, millions of people that are subject to a prosecution. This is the state of California that is going to be prosecuted as a sex offender, and every license plate and every address, every image that I've taken sharing that sex offense. And that's just the reality. These are demons, and under the law, they're being prosecuted for that real ongoing conspiracy. So while my vagina is exposed with the entity that's a sex offender, the people of the state that are being prosecuted are aware of, remember the entity stalking by helicopter, doing so, following me where I'm going today by helicopter at the ARCO, stalking by helicopter under the fake sun at the OVITT Family Community Library, stalking by helicopter under that fake sun that's still over me, which is, again, same location, ARCO, 434 North Euclid Avenue, OVITT Family Community Library, 215 East C Street. On the what will be the north and south side of the same apartment complex, the downtown Ontario luxury apartments. The sun didn't go anywhere, and the OVITT Family Community Library and the ARCO are showing where the Ontario Police Department are stalking by helicopter multiple times today, and doing so with the people of the state that have no problems engaging in terrorism before the world. And likewise, in federal court, there will be no problem in prosecuting them with the machine that is the federal law that's going to prosecute terrorists in the U.S. As the P.O.C, the entity engaging in what is activity creation, monitoring my device while putting in the keypad in relevant position in engineered light under the fake moon while they are stalking. This is the mentally ill that are gang stalking that you see outside. This is where they're engaging in that pattern of conduct while inside of the private space. And while the entity is monitoring my vagina with knowledge that my legs are spread apart, that my panties are down, that I am indisposed, the entity is not entering any keypad. I'm just being detailed. They didn't enter any code into the keypad. They merely try to open the door, which is activity creation as well. It is light activity and relevant positioning, and it's all under the fake moon. Everyone under the fake moon and under the fake sun and present where the government is already established as stalking me, like Mike LORENZ and the Ontario Police Department, are knowingly and intentionally engaging in that. The entity is very highly delusional, and these are the mentally ill that are violent sex offenders. And that's the reality, and that's also why I show you their faces, and why I show you their addresses, and why I show you where the sex offenders are located and what the sex offenders are doing, and what is the sex offender's intent to appear as to you, so that you are aware of the enemies of the devices of the enemy, because these are the demon possessed. Stater Brothers, David Quinones, Stater Brothers at 646 West Holt Boulevard is being prosecuted. This is all relevant to Federal RICO. And I'm just walking outside documenting the entity that is stalking as a population. The airport is stalking me as I'm walking through the neighborhood. The entity is engaging in what is stalking by helicopter, and they're engaging in what is psychopathic pacing outside of a bathroom. Repeatedly trying to break into the door is the same means of that psychopath that's one after another, or the same person over and over again, seeking to engage in the same conduct in its activity creation. The demon possessed that are indeed obsessed with me, and seeking to engage in what is ongoing sexually violent means of criminal monitoring, which precedes murder, which the people of the state have committed many times in California, and I am prosecuting them for the ongoing criminal conspiracy that is proven. It is gang stalking, and it is that which the government is going to be federally prosecuted for as well. Those such as Mike LORENZ and Derek Williams are going to be federally prosecuted. They're going to prison. But the people of the state are also subject to prison, including those that are systematically monitoring, like David Quinones inside of the Stater Brothers, who was facilitating a means, a crime scene whereby an arena, a forum for vagina monitoring, like the sex offenders on surveillance cameras at Stater Brothers at 646 West Holt Boulevard. Okay, this is P.O.C. The entity's engaging in that, and I want to document that. This is vagina monitoring. They're doing so with regard to that pattern of conduct, and I am outside capturing featuring third parties such as Frank Bob 505, the handicap license plate. I'm documenting the sex offenders that are stalking in the path with light, which includes the third party that is subject to federal prison for such ongoing criminal conduct, such as license plate 8 Henry Robert Jerry 425, who is going to prison, engaging in that pattern of conduct, systematically, repeatedly engaging in what is stalking and that psychopathic pattern of stalking with engineer light, which is psychologically harmful. And it's also shared with what are demons that are stalking and monitoring my vagina in the bathroom. What they're doing outside is directly tied to what's going on the inside, and all that's going on the inside is psychopathic pacing. All of the cockroaches, who are the people that say all they're doing is going around in circles, essentially, following as a population. They do that under things like a fake sun and a fake moon, and where those fake sun and fake moons can't go on the inside of the building, they're doing so while you see engineer light that's covering everything on the inside of the store. Inside of this Stater Brothers, while I'm standing in line, the entity has engineer light flying through the air. This is the entity that you hear engage in what is efforts to break into the bathroom with regard to monitoring genitalia in a private space. Obsessed stalkers who are engaged in the conspiracy to murder, and you're looking at the ways in which they are hunting down human beings and stalking them any and everywhere at all times, including now you're seeing while they are being documented in real time. The people of the state are being federally prosecuted, and these are the violent sex offenders that they are. That is speaking to the violent sex offenders that are the Thugs Ontario Police Department, the Ontario Fire Department, American Medical Response, the Ontario International Airport, okay? The Ontario International Airport and every gang stalking airline. Those are businesses that are ran by and operated by and functioning off of violent sex offenders that make up companies. They are the same entity, okay? This is P.O.C. It's currently 9:01 p.m. And this is vagina monitoring. This is the sex offense that's underway inside of the venue, where I show you everywhere that I go. That environment follows. That environment is following while a population is following. And that population is going to be federally prosecuted on a strict liability basis. This is P.O.C. This is criminal summoning and sexual assault and battery. And he's also monitoring concert with King's Tattoo and also Union Pacific. 9DQD278. This is the entity that's stalking with the airport. That's AMR. This is the entity that's stalking with the Ontario Police. The lunacy I'm capturing with helicopter. And this demon is stalking in the path, engaging in sexual violence while the podcast is being uploaded. These are the co-conspirators of murder that are keeping the evidence of them conspiring murder under surveillance, and they engage in more acts of terrorism and furtherance of that murder. This is why the people of the state are subject to prison, okay? This is P.O.C. While the entity is touching, this is the environment where you are indeed engaging in what is federal stalking, okay? This is mental illness. While they're stalking in the path, they drive in this light, they sound sirens while their co-conspirators come around me, stalking in the bathroom, and they're doing so. This is mental illness, and these are the demon-possessed that are going to prison. 9 David, Queen David 278, and King's Tattoo. None of them are kings. None of them. And they're on Instagram, and I'm going to be prosecuting all of these little ghettos that are engaging in criminal monitoring using this venue as a means of criminal surveillance at 628 D as in dog and on Holt Boulevard. This is psychopathic pacing. And I'm capturing images. You'll see the gang stalkers of the Ontario International Airport. And today, they're not landing right here behind the subway. Today, they're flying high in elevation, just like I captured that gang violence. Doing the cartwheels right here, flying in the path through the middle of the roadway over the demons that are pacing on the ground. And the demons that are the mentally ill that have no business in the medical field, the gang stalkers, the gang stalking EMTs in San Bernardino County, AMR, are going to be federally prosecuted. They have multiple contracts throughout California engaging in criminal surveillance. They commit kidnappings. They're engaging in surveillance, and that is a threat to the American people. They commit murders and kidnappings just like they have with the Ontario Police Department. Okay, this is P.O.C. It's currently 9:54 p.m. This is the entity engaging what is terrorism and psychological torture while they're stalking me with light, wanting to touch all over my body. In doing so, they literally are stalking and harassing and molesting, pursuing with this light conduct. I can't go anywhere without sex offenders touching me, and they do so while they are stalking in furtherance of murdering me. And they're doing that while including the business of Ontario Village Shopping Center, King's Tattoo, pacing out, and they're done with their tattoos at the same time that I'm uploading my podcast, while the entity are stalking psychopath-sounding sirens in the engineer light. P.O.C. It is currently 9:55 p.m. This is the elaborate and intricate strict liability basis for domestic terrorism in the U.S. The people of the state are being prosecuted. P.O.C. They're stalking. Just so you can see, that's not lighting that causes a gang of shadows to surround you. In this environment, this is surveillance. And the people of the state that are demons do so under the fake moon. They will be federally prosecuted where they live, where they are aiding in the conspiracy to keep you under surveillance in order to murder you. This is P.O.C. License 8NXT640 7YGC 774 P.O.C. And that's the Ontario Police Department benefiting from gang stalking where the people of the state reside, which is also why I captured that department and the department's period stalking by flying a helicopter over their homes in that environment, maintaining that environment, stalking by planes over their homes in that environment. They will be federally prosecuted as the gang stalkers, the terrorists that they are. This is P.O.C. They're demons lurking in the dark. That's a demon. The multiple shadows, that bang it, that's a demon. He's monitoring. This is P.O.C. That's mental illness. That's actually Satan. It's a demon-possessed person. And Satan is lurking in the dark, monitoring me while I'm walking through the alley, and they know where I'm at, and they're stalking in the path with light. This is P.O.C. This is the entity that's engaged in what is murdering American citizens in California. It's a state system. Okay? In this environment is indeed demon-possessed. Okay? And that is not the moon. This is a population that is tracking my steps, and that tracking of my steps is also proven through an environment speaking to the fact that you know who I am and you are in fact stalking me while you engage in a documented pattern of conduct of stalking with light. P.O.C. Alrighty, this is the entity that is engaged in this third-party servitude. That's the airport that's engaged in stalking. Now, while I'm at the Ontario Village Shopping Center, they're flying over this field, flying over Vine Avenue, flying over Holt Boulevard to fly over these houses and then over the Ontario Village Shopping Center. Now they're engaged in what is making cartwheel because they know they're on video and it's still stalking. These are the demons that are monitoring my vagina, and they have been. Otif El-Kadi, Alan D. Wapner. This entity is going to be federally prosecuted, and the airport is being shut down, but they're not getting off that easy. They will be federally prosecuted as terrorists. And the gang stalking airlines, this is a massive RICO case, and this is third-party servitude right here. Union Pacific, Audible Activity, the Engineer Light, they're stalking, they're monitoring. They're engaged in what is terrorism in furtherance of murdering me, and I'm documenting it. I'm laying out how the pattern of conduct operates, and typically, American citizens that are murdered by this population, they don't have this evidence. The people of the state are going to be federally prosecuted as the terrorists that they are. All right, that's P.O.C. and that's the ongoing concerted activity by the entity using the train system and using the sky space, using planes and helicopters, channels of interstate commerce. Federal stalking, Title 18, Section 22618, subsections 1 and 2. This is the fake moon. No longer over the state of brother. Here's my shadow lined up on the wall. Here's another lined up on the wall. Okay, and this is a long drawn out, what's in the dark, probably can't see it, just out way in front of me and through this alley. And that's an entity that's stalking. They know exactly where I'm at and what I'm doing on my phone the moment that I start recording them. It's very equally damning if they fly right over, because that's what they're doing. I already documented them doing that. The entity engaged in this cartwheel, they don't have any rhyme or reason. They engage in this cartwheel conduct after I capture them where they don't like to be caught on camera from a distance. All right, so they'll engage in the cartwheel conduct. You already know they're coming from a distance. 2900 Airport Road. These are not, their demons aren't intelligent. They're just monitoring. The precision with regard to monitoring me and stalking me is because they're demons. It's not intelligence. This is not intelligence. These demons that are on YouTube talking about no, they're not geniuses. They are ignoramuses. These are imbeciles. This is outright thuggish gang conduct. And all they're doing is engaging in violence. I'm showing how they have no strategy. I'm showing how they have no organization. I'm showing how they have no response once they're caught. All they do is engage in more psychotic behavior. There is nothing genius about that. There's nothing genius about engaging in what is psychological abuse either. It's called being evil. It's called being sick. They are the ones who are mentally ill. They are not geniuses. It's only the demon possessed that are out here trying to give Satan some sense of relevance while I am dragging him, not just prosecuting him, but embarrassing him. This is P.O.C. It is currently 10:14 p.m. 507 West Vesta. They're already being federally prosecuted. They are stalking with the Ontario Police Department. P.O.C. It's 10:16 p.m. where the entity is stalking me in that alley with the people of the state and the engineered environment. 417 C Street. Very heavily documented. They're gang stalking as well. They're going to prison. The Ontario Police Department gang stalking me with that neighborhood right there. Those demons at that apartment complex. Under the fake moon, under the fake sun, with the gang stalker at 218 C Street, gang stalking me with that department that she says she's going to call them while they are stalking me together. This is the department that's being disbanded. They are referring to themselves in their audible activity with regard to communicating an unlawful threat, and since they like to engage in that while stalking, they're going to be disbanded. That's 417 C Street. That entire apartment building, 417 C Street. That's what they're letting you know. License 6 Xavier, Indiana, Edward 308 at 507 West Vesta. You're going to look at a Google Maps because the entity is engaging in the pattern of conduct. All these streets intersect. This is the entity that keeps a fake sun at all times of the day over this entire neighborhood, which is being federally prosecuted. You're talking about Department of Homeland Security. You're talking about the entity that's engaging with the federal government. All manner of the federal government is relevant with regard to prosecuting and applying federal policy to terrorists in the state of California. Terrorists aren't getting any financial assistance. Terrorists aren't staying in this country if they're immigrants. Terrorists are being federally prosecuted as violent sex offenders who are unfit to be around children. Terrorists are unfit to be in fields such as working amongst the public, being around children, being around the elderly, engaging, as I've also demonstrated through the evidence, that they are unfit to engage in jobs where they are exposed to the public, like I stated, flying planes. Clearly being in law enforcement, being in the medical field, driving public transportation. This is the entity that's engaging in that pattern of conduct, and I do want to make sure that that's clear. That demon that you heard, that vehicle, I'm going to read these license plates. They are located at 417 and 407 C Street. Very heavily documented apartment complex or apartment building duplex. These little ghettos over here, gang stalking. License 4 David Nancy Victor 008. 5 Wendy Larry Paul 658. 6 Mary Charlie Zebra 211. 8 Uncle 0 Nancy 854. 4 Nancy 0 Yolanda 062. 9 Larry Nancy Mary 094. 9 Victor Apple Larry 980. And sitting with their light activity while the entity is talking about helicopter, 9 Xavier Yolanda Xavier 437. I just want to be clear, everybody in this building is subject to federal prison. While I'm documenting, as I'm walking through the neighborhood at this location, the entity stalking by helicopter, psychopathic pacing in helicopters, stalking me by commercial planes right here. The entity keeping the fake sun, tracking my steps, terrorizing and stalking and harassing at this venue where the people of the state are engaging in surveillance where they live, where you will be subject to what is a raid and being arrested and being subject to a federal prosecution and subject to prison. License 9UCU 343. This is P.O.C. It is currently, by the way, 10:19 p.m. 407 and 417 C Street. The entity is indeed flying in circles around me as I'm walking through that neighborhood. I've already captured literally the same thing on video before. And this is also why the demon that is very heavily documented, let me recite her license plate because she's going to prison. Every day that I'm documenting this agency stalking, and the entity that you hear this morning, she's going to call the cops that are stalking, right? And not only that, you're going to call the cops that are stalking. You're going to call them while I'm standing outside using my phone, while I'm documenting the government through you, gang stalking me, both of which, okay, are identification of what is malice, and you don't have any standing in court regarding that. You don't have a cause of action. But this is the government that's engaging in that. That audible activity is why they are going to prison. This is the entity that engages in that bullying conduct. They engage in that while they are being documented as terrorists. These are fools, and these are fools who are very far from geniuses. Okay? They are not genius at all. They're not even at an average level of intelligence. That's what I am showing you. These are demons that are merely reactive and irrational, imbecilic. They are inherently inferior. They are wildly envious and insecure. They are psychotic and delusional, and they become violent in order to get their way. That is not a genius. That is someone that engages in acts of violence in order to silence, in order to retaliate, in order to quote unquote become victorious, and that's not happening here. That's not happening here. And you know what the entity does? The entity shows you exactly what they are. They're stalkers. You are not a genius when all you're doing is stalking. That's not a genius. P.O.C. Everyone that refers to the stalkers of the Ontario Police Department are going to prison. And then you can learn about who you're not going to bully. You're not bullying anybody, and you have no authority. As you refer to them, you're going to federal prison, because I documented it. The evidence of a co-conspirator referring to stalkers and kidnappers with the intent to threaten kidnapping, obstruct justice, while you're conspiring to kill an American citizen by virtue of gang stalking. The very presence and the audible activity that I am witnessing is a violation of the law. You're stalking by even being in my presence and saying it, including where you live, while you say it under the fake sun and engineer light under the fake moon. These psychopaths are being federally prosecuted. They are entirely unintelligent. That's why they can't think themselves out of the P.O.C. You know why? Because these so-called geniuses are obsessed with my vagina. They're not geniuses at all. They're sex offenders. It is currently 10:22 p.m. You need to put Satan in the proper context. Satan is a creature. He's only like a roaring lion. He's not an actual lion. And it's only those who are fooled by him who would refer to him as some sort of genius. No, he's not. He's not even average. He's below average. And everybody following him, and everybody following me and following these demons of the Ontario Police, you're being prosecuted all together. All together. P.O.C. It is currently 10:23 p.m. This is Laurel and C Street. I'm flying over the top of my head. This is P.O.C. And this is following from the Stater Brothers. Here's my shadows that are perpendicular to each other while the entity is stalking. And this is the agency where you refer to them, you're going to federal prison. All right, they're already prosecuted, and these are suicidal murderers and kidnappers and violent sex offenders who are engaging in conduct based upon their maniacal psychosis that they've suffered from for a long time, and that's what's going into what is law enforcement. The people of the state are the ones that are going to federal prison. They are already done. Mike LORENZ they don't have any hope in federal court. The people of the state are going to federal prison, and that's what you need to focus on. The people of the state that refer to them, the people of the state that call themselves threatening by referring to them in their audible activity while they're stalking, they're going to prison. Just like the female you see under the fake sun this morning, she's going to prison. The people of the state at 218 C Street, she's going to federal prison. The entity that's engaged in that, Tracy Banks, engages in this very heavily, kidnapping with this agency, she's going to federal prison. This is what Sean Thrasher, the Ontario OVITT Family Community Library, are engaging in. They're going to federal prison. They're going to federal prison. You make up information, something that did not happen. Absolutely nothing happened. That's why when nothing happened and they meet me outside after not confronting me, asking me anything about whoever it is that I'm supposedly violating in the bathroom on March 2nd, and then they have this agency that is stalking meeting me outside with regard to what is a threat. They're going to prison. And this is the entity that's engaged in serial kidnapping. And this is also how you know that I am here and they are stalking me, because they begin the flying in circles as I document them on video. That's also how you know that they're stalking me in particular. Also, they are known to be stalking me while they say my name, while they are stalking me in the vehicles. This is the entity that's engaged in that. They are going to prison while they utilize the agency and refer to them in their audible activity. The people that say are going to prison. This is P.O.C. They are stalking me in particular. That's why they engage in the psychopathic pacing. They are following me. They're following me while they fly past and they fly back, remaining around me as I'm walking through the neighborhood. And it's the same knowledge that's already deduced from the pattern of conduct by the people of the state. The people of the state, this is the law. As you refer to the kidnappers who are stalking, they are already done. They are going to prison. They're going to federal prison. They are not protecting. They don't have any authority. This is that system of gang stalking, and you're going to break the conspirators apart. As you want to refer to them, you're threatening the life of somebody else while you're stalking, and you're going to prison. P.O.C. And I'm going to get this third party's license plate right now. This is the same conduct you see at King's Tattoo. Stalking with light, monitoring on my device, and doing so on video with the Ontario Police Department. This is federal prison, 9MXY 754, and this shall not even refer to that police department, because if it comes out of your face, you're going to prison. P.O.C. They're psychopaths aiming light. They're mentally ill. And as they engage in this conduct, they're going to be committed. This is a pattern shared by a population that's demon-possessed. This is indeed sexual assault and battery, and I have multiple shadows, okay? They're stalking with the Ontario Police Department. And that's what the fake sun accomplishes during the day. These are demons, and they're going to prison. The people of the state, of any state, are going to prison while they refer to the gang stalkers that are calling themselves any police department. This is how this law is going to be executed, and they're going to prison. And the demons that you have I've documented engaged in what is threatening to engage in criminal summoning and have engaged, like the OVITT Family Community Library, like Economy Inn, like Tracy Banks, Woodside Senior, they're going to federal prison. This is P.O.C. Oh, by the way, this is a sex offense. They're going to be federally prosecuted, and they are stalking with the Ontario Police, engaged in conspicuous surveillance. The police are still monitoring while they flew off after I obviously point out what you know, that what you already know, but I'm just showing you how to analyze. They know that they're stalking. They are stalking me. That's always the case. Common sense is this is why they're flying in circles over me again. License 9RLD 529, 9DOE 458. The Ontario Police Department are mentally ill. Okay, it's not a police department. They are mentally ill, and that's what this evidence is establishing. And the people of the state are gang stalking together inside and outside of all the buildings around a relevant position. While the police are stalking, they are incriminating everyone in relevant position, and that's the entire city of Ontario. Alrighty, this is sexual assault and battery by the demons. They sharing this together. This is an entity. Gang stalking on the roads and the highways together. And the airport that you know flies all the way across to the city of Ontario, gang stalking. This is P.O.C. This is a terrorist and a co-conspirator of murder targeting me from across the street with that which is not their headlights. This is impossible light activity. This is license plate. Looking crazy, that's the mental. They're going to be committed. 9PYF 522. That's impossible light activity while they're engaging. That's psychopathic pacing. What they're engaging in. License plate 9TD0728, and this is the entity that's doing so on behalf of the terrorists that are the Ontario Police. You've got roaches one after another coming out. You see that? That's not going to reach on the opposite side of the Ontario Town Square. CEASELESS Regis Group, the demons inside of the parking garage are gang stalking, keeping me under surveillance and further into murder. 9CKN 703, molesting with light is pursuant to criminal monitoring, and you're stalking with that agency that you see on video, stalking me, flying in circles over my head, targeting me, and so are the people of the state. So is CEASELESS Regis Group, Downtown Ontario Luxury Apartments. So as Wells Fargo, 240 North Euclid Avenue. So is the entity that's maintaining this fake sun, as you saw right here today on what is the north side, what is the south side of the Downtown Ontario Luxury Apartments, this right here. And this morning, where the fake sun is over me at what is the opposite side of this apartment building at the ARCO in the morning. And this is where it was setting. That's the significance with regard to this engineered environment, this light. This is the entity that is engaged. These are demons that are stalking with light because they are monitoring you. And they're doing so in environments such as things that include things like the fake sun and the fake moon. Environment that is on its face abnormal, that you are now no longer ignorant about. This is surveillance. They know exactly who you are. And while you want to look perplexed, meaning you want to look stupid while you're being documented, I'm going to use that. It's going to be used to commit you. Because you look stupid on your face does not change the facts. And because you are engaging in that conduct, you will be diagnosed as mentally ill. You are still engaged in what is conspiracy to murder, regardless of your facial expression. This is what Satan has relied upon. The entity is engaged in psychopathic pacing by helicopter, and you're looking stupid. You're going to be federally prosecuted and diagnosed. You're going to be committed. Okay? It is equally threatening. It is equally criminal, regardless of how you contort your face. This is the entity that's all manner of that ambush conduct, stalking on the roads and the highways. They're stalking with light while I'm at the square, and you have engineer light swimming across on the wall underneath the amphitheater, driving from inside of this parking garage where they're engaged in surveillance and furtherance of murder. This is the entity that's engaging in that pattern of conduct, knowing exactly who I am, where I'm located, while they are stalking with that agency, flying in circles over the top of my head, which is terrorism, with regard to psychological torture, harassment, and furtherance of murder. All right, this is P.O.C. License plate. This is license plate. 9 Larry Uncle 523. Saris Regents Group is going to be federally prosecuted. This is a facilitating venue, which you also see while the entity is stalking by the airport, the police department, the entity engaging in criminal summoning, and the entity maintaining that fake sun rise and sunset all hours of the day. The fake sun is over here, which is significant with regard to them targeting me with impossible light. That's the federal RICO case, P.O.C. It is currently 10:35 p.m. This is 320 North Euclid Avenue. This is documentation of the entity following me from place to place, following me back to the Stater Brothers as I left the OVITT Family Community Library. And that is evident through the fake moon that's over my head at that Stater Brothers. The same Stater Brothers parking lot where the fake sun rose over me in alignment to me at that location. The sun and the moon, speaking to what is targeting, stalking. And that's also how you know that the Ontario police are stalking me, aside from the fact the body of evidence of them engaging what is stalking by flying in circles over the top of my head. The entities engaging in that pattern of conduct with regard to psychological torture. They have an appetite for tormenting people. And it's supposed to be witchcraft, but they are showing how mentally unstable they are, and they will be federally prosecuted and committed for this criminal system. They're going to be committed for it. They are a threat to the public. They are a threat to each other. This is P.O.C. You need to understand that these are demons, and this is mental illness that is undiagnosed. It's closeted amongst a population. Psychopathic pacing is all they're doing. All they're doing is pacing back and forth all around, and you have been conditioned to look at it in one way. It's not traffic, it's surveillance. It's not air traffic, it's surveillance. And moreover, there aren't even any flights from the airport that would be occurring over here. The Ontario International Airport is fully engaged in, but it doesn't matter. Even if the airport was behind the city hall, if it's occurring under the fake sun, it's occurring in that engineered environment, it is surveillance. But the entity has provided much more evidence than that. And this is going to be the gutting out of the city of Ontario. A terrorist population. This is P.O.C. Recall it's the same airport, and they're hovering over the alley at Vine Avenue and Hope Boulevard. Okay, now they're dipping beneath low after flying over the city hall right here. Where are they dipping though? They're dipped right in alignment with me. Okay, that's what gang stalking is. Getting in the path, as I refer to it, blocking the path. The entity does not permit you to go anywhere without them being in your path. That's accomplished in alignment to me at the C Street turn circle. That's accomplished while the entity is on the opposite side of buildings, even while you can see them. They're always maintaining aerial surveillance over my head. The entity is engaging in what is the indication of surveillance in that environment that defies nature, including the impossible light activities such as here. But the entity is engaged in this pattern of conduct, and you're mindful of where I just came from and what they were doing at the alley much more west of this location, and they're engaging in what is flying and doing a cartwheel. So you're flying miles from here. They were at this same elevation much more west of this location. From the airport is where you're engaging in a takeoff, and as you engage in a takeoff, you're progressively increasing in elevation. I'm showing you in the documentation they're not increasing in elevation. They're all in all manner of location also when there's only one airport in Ontario, California. This is how they're all stalking me at the 10 freeway up Euclid Avenue, when you're acting like you're taking off over where Paul Leon is located inside of the Ontario City Hall. Paul Leon, who is not ignorant, and he shall also be held accountable for the criminal activity that the city of Ontario is engaging in on his watch, which he's also funding. Okay, making possible, facilitating, sharing in it while the fake sun and the fake moon, the engineered environment is ongoing. The stalking is ongoing at that very venue, the Ontario City Hall. This is why the people of the state are so comfortable to sit outside of that venue and gang stalk. That's why the Ontario City Hall employees are pacing, gang stalking at this very walkway. This is evidence that's going to come back and haunt them in court. They're mentally ill. I am prosecuting psychopaths. They are not thinking about the consequences right now. They're not. That's why you have the mentally ill stalking in helicopters, and they also want to not go to federal prison and not be viewed as being mentally ill, such as Mike LORENZ in the Ontario Police Department, and that's exactly what's going to happen. It is currently 10:42 p.m. This is P.O.C. at the OVITT Family Community Library.